afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. It's April, and that means our recipe program this month promises to be sweet. Maple, in all of its many forms, has health benefits beyond that unforgettable taste. Maple contains many antioxidants, which help fight inflammatory diseases. That leads to some applying maple directly to their skin to reduce redness or blemishes. For maple producers, this topical choice is a no-brainer. If you spent 12 hours in a maple steam bath, you'd have pretty soft skin too. Lest we forget, maple tastes great. When has anyone ever said that about aloe? Before I get myself into trouble, let's turn this over to our resident chef and find out what's cooking.
Thank you, Jolie. Hi, I'm Marco Ayala, and I'm here to share another recipe with all of you. And this is one of my favorite times of the year, for many reasons. The first one is that as we start making that transition from winter, the days start getting warmer, even though the nights are still kind of cold. And you know exactly what that means, which is that the maple sap starts running and the maple houses are all starting to resume operations, and we have fresh maple coming. And as you know, maple is one of my favorite products from Vermont. I say it often, I use maple often here on the show, but also in my everyday life. So let's start with an appetizer. This is something that is so easy to put together, and it takes some of the ingredients that I really like from Vermont, and that is goat cheese and maple syrup. And look at that. This is fruit and cheese crostini. And I know that it really sounds fancy and it probably looks a little complicated, but trust me, this is super easy to put together. So let me tell you how to get started. First, you're gonna take one large baguette and you're gonna slice it into 1-inch pieces. As you can see, I am using 2 small baguettes and I am cutting them at an angle so I get longer pieces. Then you're gonna arrange your bread pieces onto a cookie sheet and you're gonna broil them for about 2 minutes or until they're nicely browned. Remove them from the oven and let them cool off. Once the bread is cool, you're gonna take 3 ounces goat cheese. And I found this goat cheese that is produced here in Vermont, so of course I had to use it. Evenly spread the goat cheese on top of each slice and set them aside. And I know that goat cheese is not really for everyone. I think that in this recipe it really works out great because it has a certain tanginess that works really well with the rest of the ingredients. However, if your family is not a fan of goat cheese, you can always use cream cheese, or you can also use brie cheese or any spreadable cheese of your choice. Then you're gonna take 1 green pear, such as Anjou or Bartlett. You're gonna peel it and you're gonna thinly slice it. Then you're gonna take 1 nectarine, you're gonna cut it in half, remove the pit, and you're gonna slice it in the same way that you slice your pear. Put your fruit in a bowl, add a little bit of lemon juice to prevent browning, and sprinkle it with a little bit of sugar and mix it well. Then you're gonna take the fruit and you're gonna arrange it on top of your crostini. You can either use 2 slices of nectarine, 2 slices of pear, or you can combine them like I did. Drizzle them with maple syrup and you're gonna put them back in the broiler for about 3 minutes. And you're probably thinking that the maple syrup didn't really stick to the fruit, but that's okay, because as it seeps to the bottom, the bread is going to absorb that maple syrup and is going to infuse it with that rich sweetness that we are all familiar with. While your crostini is in the oven, take about 1/4 cup fresh basil and thinly slice it. Once the crostini comes out of the oven, sprinkle it with basil and more maple syrup. And it's just that easy that you have this really nice appetizer that everyone is going to enjoy. And I think that it combines some really nice flavors of the fruit, the maple syrup, the goat cheese. During apple season, you can use apples. You can also use peaches. You can use the fruit of your choice. Let's move on to our main dish. There's so many ways to cook with maple. And for main dishes, usually is chicken or fish. I think that pork is kind of an unappreciated meat. I really like it and I make it part of my diet on a regular basis. So I wanted to make some maple pecan pork chops. And look at these beauties. It's so nicely glazed. That sauce is like nice and thick. I really think that this is a recipe that everyone in your family is going to enjoy, and it's so easy to make. So let me tell you how to put it together. First, to a bowl, you're gonna add half a teaspoon pepper, 1 tablespoon stone ground mustard, and 2 teaspoons maple syrup. Mix it well. Then you're gonna take 2 bone-in pork chops, and you're gonna smother them on both sides with the mustard and maple syrup mixture. And for this recipe, I'm using stone ground mustard. However, you can use Dijon mustard, you can use spicy mustard, or regular mustard. Really is about what you have in hand and what your family is gonna like. Another thing that I think you're noticing is that I only made 2 pork chops because I have a small family. So when I cook, I try to cook smaller meals. However, this is a recipe that you can double and feed a whole family. Then, to a large non-stick skillet over a medium heat, you're gonna add 1 tablespoon butter. Let it melt and make sure that your skillet is hot. Add the pork chops and let them brown for 2 to 3 minutes on each side. Once your pork chops are nicely browned, you're gonna add half a cup unsweetened apple juice. You're gonna reduce the heat and you're gonna scrape the brown bits. This is called deglazing. And let them simmer covered until a thermometer reads 145 degrees for internal temperature. This is gonna take about 15 to 20 minutes. And it is very important to make sure that your meat is cooked all the way through. Not only because you don't want to be eating raw pork, but also for your health. Remember that the cooking process kills any bacteria that may be in your food. So make sure to check the thermometer, as I mentioned, the meat thermometer to register 145 degrees, or you can also cut a slit in the middle of your pork chop and just make sure that it's cooked all the way through. Once your pork chops are cooked, you're gonna remove them from the pan and let them stand for about 5 minutes, keeping them warm. In the meantime, then to the skillet, you're gonna add 1/4 cup maple syrup and half a cup pecans. Cook and stir until well blended for about 2 to 5 minutes, and then you're gonna pour this mixture right over your pork chops. And I wish I could tell you that this is a lot of work, because if you look at these pork chops, they really look like a dish that you will pay about $20 at a restaurant. But you can make them at home for a fraction of that cost. And most importantly, they are going to be absolutely delicious. So everyone is going to want to have seconds. Now that we have our main dish covered, let's move along and let's talk about dessert. Because dessert, I feel like it's always the start of the show. I think that especially with maple, there's so many great desserts out there. So I found this really interesting recipe for maple bourbon banana pudding cake. And I thought to myself, that sounds absolutely delicious. And I think that's something that the Across the Fence viewers are really going to enjoy. So check this out. Again, it's very easy to make. You make it in one dish, which I think is a lifesaver, and it's delicious. So let me tell you how to put it together so you can share it with all of your family. First, to an 8x8 dish, you're gonna add 6 tablespoons butter. Put it in the microwave and heat it until the butter is completely melted. Then you're gonna add half a cup sugar and you're gonna mix them well. In a separate dish, you're gonna take 1 overripe banana and you're gonna mash it well. Add it to the butter and sugar mixture and mix it well. 1 cup all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon salt. Mix them well and add them to your banana and butter mixture. Then you're gonna add 1 large egg and 1 cup milk at room temperature. Mix it well until there are no lumps in the batter. And you're gonna notice that this batter is very loose, is very watery. And there's also a lot of baking powder in this recipe. But trust me, this is one of those recipes where you're gonna have to trust the process, because once you put it in the oven, it's gonna turn out great. I had my doubts, I will not lie. I thought this was going to be a disaster, and I was very pleasantly surprised. To a bowl, you're gonna add 3/4 cup maple syrup and 1/2 cup light brown sugar. And you're gonna microwave it for about 1 minute. And you're gonna add 2 tablespoons bourbon. In this case, I'm using cinnamon whiskey, which I like better. Mix it well and drizzle the syrup mixture over the batter. It will seep to the bottom. Do not stir. This is very important. Do not stir it. Then sprinkle the batter with 1/4 cup finely chopped pecans. Then you're gonna bake your pudding cake at 375 degrees for about 40 minutes until the cake is golden and it looks nicely brown. And I am telling you, I really seriously believe that this recipe was going to be a disaster. Look at this sauce. It's nicely thick. Who would have thought? So, as I said, this is one of those recipes where you just have to trust the process. And those are my maple recipes for this month. And remember what I always say, which is get your maple locally, so you know exactly where it comes from. Vermont has so many sugar houses where you can get fresh maple, whether you're buying the little one, the big jug like I do because I use a lot of maple, or you're getting like the really fancy one that comes in like this great presentations that are perfect for gifts. Just remember to support your local producers and to get your maple locally. And on that note, also remember to follow Across the Fence on social media to get all these recipes and many more right on your computers or your phones, as well as all the incredible content that Across the Fence puts out. Remember to enjoy your food and enjoy your local maple. From my kitchen to your kitchen, happy cooking.
Thank you, Marco. You've outdone yourself this month. A shout out to everyone behind the scenes here at WCAX who makes this program possible. I'm Jolie Whitney. Have a good one.